Andrew Fouts, Artistic Director of Chatham Baroque. One of three, is that correct?
That is correct.
So Chatham Baroque has three artistic directors.
Yes.
You must get along very well. I'm very interested to know how this works.
Like legs on a stool.
Yeah. Oh.
Supporting each other.
What a lovely way to put that. I assume you mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Three sides of a triangle, the strongest shape out there. But yeah, we do have to get along very, very well. We spend a lot of time together in a lot of different contexts, playing music, traveling, shared accommodation, sometimes if we're on the road, and of course a lot of time in the office, or just rehearsing or planning, chatting, brainstorming, socializing, drinking martinis.
Very good. Now, it is not just your management of the company or your artistic direction of the company, but Chatham Baroque is essentially the three of you three performers.
Yeah, I guess at its core, Chatham Baroque is the ensemble, the group that you would go to see at a concert. Chatham Baroque, however, as an organization, is an entity, a 501c3 nonprofit. Since 1996, I believe we incorporated in that capacity, which has grown to have an administration, and we have a variety of different programs besides just performing that we artistic directors sort of oversee and are a good part of. So there's our performance series here in Pittsburgh. There are a lot of collaborations that we do with other arts organizations. We tour around the country, or often outside the country. And then we have a recording label, and so we have that as an entity of what we do. And
so there are albums out there.
There are albums out there, exactly.
Very good.
And we also work a lot in education. Particularly, we focus on early childhood development, 2 to 5 year old kids.
That's a big thing now. You know, I mean, classical music for very, very young children. There's a lot of programs out there.
It works.
Do you think it makes them more intelligent? What does it do for the young mind?
Well, I think it just creates arenas whereby kids can really learn that there are different means of expressing themselves in different forms. And that music is a tool for self-expression, for utilizing your intellect, utilizing your creativity, utilizing your sociability, that it can be fun, that it can be inspiring, that it is a resource, basically.
I wonder if I'd have turned out different if I was listening to Mozart when I was 1 or 2 years old rather than the oldies station that my parents were playing.
I tend to think it's music in general, exposure to the rudiments and the structure of music, but any different type. Certainly in Western music, it all kind of functions harmonically the same, whether we're talking about Bach or we're talking about Johnny Cash. He doesn't have too much harmonic rhythm change in his music, but
what a musician, right? Or vocalist.
What an icon.
Right, let's
what an American legend, for sure. But I do think that just music in general, the arts in general, are an important thing for childhood development.
I agree. Now, when we say Baroque, are we, in the sense of Chatham Baroque, referring to the time period or a style of music?
Both. We are talking about, particularly in music, the dates are sort of set by a big debate that happened in between two Italians in the late Renaissance.
Now, usually that doesn't end very well. A heated debate between two Italians. So how did this one turn out?
I don't think they liked each other too well at the end of it.
Yeah.
But out of that debate came the sort of the musical ethos of the Baroque, what the Baroque was all about artistically, which was the expression and hierarchical nature of text, and that music and emotion, the expression of human emotion, and music being in support of the expression of that. And that sort of differed from the ethos of the Renaissance, where music was the most sublime. Text was not necessarily the boss. So you followed rules that were musically based and weren't necessarily designed to rip your heart out. or convey your passion over unrequited love, or to say that you would like to die 1,000 deaths, or to...
Now that's all enjoyable too. I mean, let's not write that off.
Or just utilizing music to, we have a big concert coming up, Vivaldi's Four Seasons, which is just Vivaldi's using music to paint a picture of country life, of weather, of sort of universal human experiences as we interact with our natural world around us.
If it's not Baroque, don't fix it. You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
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 Like a million times?
I have heard that just once or twice. It's funnier every single time.
Well, you're very kind to say that.
Your question was, so Baroque is this style, it's this time period, 1600 to 1750, which 1750 is the death of Johann Sebastian Bach. That's 150 years worth of music. Corresponding is Baroque art around the same time period. And Baroque in that sense refers to the time period, but it also kind of has this connotation of descriptor of what the art is all about, what the music is all about, which is kind of highly ornamental. You look at Baroque architecture and there's lots of filigree, Corinthian columns with, all sorts of flowers and curves and ornamentation.
Do you then see these parallels between the music, the art, the architecture of that era?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's a beautiful thing.
Sort of elaborating upon a structure is one of the tenets I find that is parallel between the two. So, your Baroque architecture has certain forms, Pythagorean relations, proportions in terms of the placement of windows and the proportion between an arch and the columns and overall sort of ratios being sort of aligned with the golden section.
I never looked at it that way.
On top of which you have all of this filigree and ornamentation and decoration. It's almost overwrought. It's almost too much in certain instances. And Baroque music similarly has harmonic structure that is sort of cosmic and universal and rooted in proportion and that which feels right and balanced and settled, on top of which is infused with all of this filigree.
So, of all the musical styles that there are, was it that attracted you to Baroque music in particular?
The overt and excessive nature of it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think so. It kind of appealed to my, I guess, latent dramatic personality.
And we should mention, you yourself are a violinist.
Yeah,
yes.
It appealed to being a violinist, yeah.
And the Washington Post once said of you, Andrew, that you have a mellifluous sound and sensitive style. That sounds like a dating profile. Do you agree with this?
I've used it on a dating profile, in fact.
Yeah, how's that worked out for you? You doing all right by that?
Not so great, no.
So are these the qualities that you would look for in a violinist that you would play with? What denotes a real quality violinist in your eyes?
Mellifluosity is the great attribute for... in any context, I think.
It's a great word, I'll tell you that.
No, what am I looking for in a musician of Baroque music? I'm looking for somebody who is going to paint a picture, to really deliver, to transport me to a different style, a different state of being, a different emotional framework. And
that's a magician.
And make me believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, sort of just, it is kind of a musician. You are creating out of sound waves. And
the Post went on to say that you are also an extraordinary violinist who exhibits phenomenal control. So you're not poking anybody in the eye with that stick,
I
right?
do sometimes drop my bow or fling it across the stage.
Well, what's interesting is I think you have brought it today, yes?
Yeah, I do have my violin here.
And one thing you were saying to me earlier that part of what Chatham Baroque does is performs with, I guess, instruments that are authentic to the period. For example, there's not a lot of synthetics in this violin. It is made as it would have been pretty much in the Baroque era. Is that right?
Exactly right. The body of the violin is exactly the same as you would see on the stage at Heinz Hall with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. They did certain things beginning in the 19th century to the way that it's set up to make it sound different. This one is set up as a Baroque violin, so it has a shorter fingerboard. This neck is angled pretty much straight up from the body of the violin. They started angling them a little bit down, putting more pressure on the bridge. This would be at a steeper angle, and that compounded with a slightly different carved bridge that's a little bit higher, means that a modern violin is a bit louder because it's got more tension on it. Modern instruments nowadays, primarily they utilize strings made of steel or wrapped in silver or steel, some sort of synthetic core that's to replicate the original material that they used in the Baroque and really up through the 19th century, which is sheep gut. Sheep or beef gut, the feather being sheep gut.
That's what that is.
That's what these are, yeah.
And it makes that sound. That's the guts of a sheep.
Exactly.
Making that sound. And then that's sturdy, really. That's unbelievable.
I mean, they're not just sort of slapped on there after slaughter. There's a whole process, of course.
Yeah.
But so you can look on YouTube.
It's a gory business, this business of Baroque music. Stretching guts across a piece of wood, yeah. But no, that's always fascinated me, that you can make such beautiful sounds out of something like that.
One of the biggest visual differences, I don't use a chin rest or a shoulder rest. This little discoloration.
You rebel, you. Oh my gosh.
This little discoloration is just from when I downshift, my chin kind of falls down, so I don't drop my violin if I haven't set it up to sort of pronate my wrist and crawl down.
Yep.
So that's just sort of a wear pattern. This is a new violin that's modeled on a violin from 1737,
wow.
a Guarneri. But this one was made in 2013. It has a very soft varnish and just sort of worn off, and in 100 years this will sort of blend together and become modeled and distressed.
Beautiful.
Like an old pair of jeans that I won't live to see.
Well, the Washington Post was right. You do have phenomenal control. Nothing, flew out of line here.
Oh, here's another animal part. So the bows
horsehair
are made of horsehair. Exactly.
That's right. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
So that I guess would be the tail, right, or the mane?
Of the horse. Yeah.
Oh.
And this bow is, as opposed to a modern bow, is a bit shorter. It has a pointed tip. You see, it has this swan bill at the top.
Yeah, if you've got to defend yourself while you're playing out there, I mean,
it comes in handy. And it's got this outward camber. Modern bows inward, and so that changes the way the bow articulates and the quality of sound that it draws, or how it draws sound throughout the course of the bow. It's also heavier at the base than it is at the tip, so it has a stronger down bow than an up bow, and that really works well with Baroque music for how we articulate.
Very good. I learned quite a bit there. I have a whole new respect for animal parts and how they can be utilized in society today.
We're very grateful to the sheep.
Indeed, thank you for your service. Now, it's an interesting year for Chatham Baroque. I believe that I think just starting with this season, Chatham Baroque has collaborated or combined with the Renaissance and Baroque Society. Is that right? And Renaissance and Baroque, I think, is maybe a 50-year-old organization here in Pittsburgh.
This coming season is Renaissance and Baroque's 50th season. R&B, as we call it, is an iconic series presenting early music in Pittsburgh, but known nationally and internationally, drawing artists to sort of try to get on the series from all around the world. And they've presented some of the greats of early music, practitioners of not just Baroque music, what Chatham Baroque does, but also medieval music, Renaissance music, and early classical music. And Chatham, so this is their 50th anniversary coming up.
So how is it? How's it been so far, the collaboration, the working together?
Oh, fantastic. So what has happened this year, this is the first season that Renaissance and Baroque, their 50th season, will be presented under the Chatham Baroque Inc. umbrella. So the two organizations, which were I won't say mutually exclusive in that we had a lot of overlap in terms of our missions and what we present and what, the music that we do and the people who like to listen to what we do. But they were separate entities, and they've joined under one administrative organizational umbrella. And so now Chatham Baroque Inc. is responsible for the presenting of Renaissance and Baroque series. It's going really well.
I think it's wonderful. It's like, in the comic books when Batman joins up with Superman and you get into all sorts of fantastic adventures. Well, it's like a power team.
It is a power team. Like the sort of sum of the parts is greater than, oh gosh, I always mix that metaphor.
Have another cocktail. You'll be fine.
Maybe this.
But we're very much looking forward to watch the two companies produce together moving forward.
Likewise.